Stinky Popcorn Boys.
We watch movies and eat popcorn. And are stinky.
Hello. We are the Stinky Popcorn Boys, just some boys talking about movies and how they made us feel. I am Patrick Basquill, and I am the Dread Pirate Roberts.
Oh, damn. Well, I'm John
Yeah,
Gilardi,
dude.
and I'm the Dread Pirate Roberts.
You're the Jed Pirate Roberts?
I'm Jed the Pirate Roberts. I said that wrong. I'm just going to roll with it.
No, we're just playing. We're just playing. We're vibing on it, dude. This is it. This is the
Yep.
this is the day. This is the century. This is the moment.
Indeed.
So this week we're talking about a classic, the 1986. Hold on, it's there somewhere. The classic sort of like reverent fantasy book. Like this, it came out in an era where there's like Willow, like where it's like, I don't know. How do you describe this movie?
I don't know. It's a weird movie. I never saw it, but I would always chime in. That's the whole story. I guess this is my first time watching the movie from beginning to end, and I had always tuned in for some reason I always tuned in on the wit game with the poison drink and the iocane or whatever it's called.
Yeah, it's a classic.
And I always tune on that part, and then they reunite and they fall down the hill. And I always stopped watching after that. I don't know what it was, but like I have seen like channel surf to that scene. I'm always like, "What is this?" And everyone's like, "Oh, it's the Princess
That's so
Bride."
funny.
I was like, "What? I don't know what this like." Sounds stupid. various age points, and then tuned out. Even though like what I saw was like kind of cool or like kind of into it. And so we're talking about what to cover, and I just watched Princess Bride. To finally have watched it, and that's why we're here talking about it. But in terms of like the vibe and what you're trying to go after or what you were trying to chase, I don't know. I think it's was it Reverent? I think hits it well, and it's very much of the 80s. But to me, it feels super D&D, and that's probably biased because I've been heavy on that train for a while, and so have you. But like it's a simple adventure with different stages of challenges. And so, which is a lot of movies, but this has essentially the climbing the cliff.
It's also just storytelling, but it does hit those like essentially too. It's like very like it's very funny. Again, everything that I'm going to say, I'm 100% aware that it's colored by my recent it's like a recency bias thing. Yeah. But in my sort of examination of stories and doing D&D and all this stuff, is that this is very much like each step is like, it's like a well put together one shot sort of, where it's like each sort of like little segment unlocks the next little segment, and they all have their own individual challenges. And I think too, one of the reasons that it feels that it hits that sort of D&D itch or whatever is because there's so much that is solved without using violence. I mean, listen, they have sword fight, they do the thing, and I was watching this actually, and again, this is a recency bias thing, but I was watching the fucking thing. The sword fight between Inigo Montoya and the Masked Man. Yeah. And I was like, how would you make this encounter like where no one's like essentially like how would you do a duel, like a proper duel in D&D where no one is getting hit? And like how do you make that exciting? Cuz I've done like sort of like boxing matches and stuff, and it always it's like boxing matches between two rogues, and it's like no one really hits. Or like you do like 2 damage because everyone's using their cunning action, doing their thing, or whatever, and it's just like, how does this? How would I do this? How would I build this? Because in a movie, you can have a duel and have it be exciting, and like no one get hurt, and it's just like you're just matching, like Barbossa and Jack Sparrow just like sword fighting along the like on the inside of the cave while Will Turner is doing his thing with the blow up guys and like all that stuff, but nobody's getting like hurt, because in real life if you get a fucking slash you get fucking hurt. So how to, and I was just like, how would I make that mechanic?
Did you find an answer?
No, not yet, because I didn't think about it that much, but it was something that's in the back of my brain.
I think what you do is you know, like QuickTime events in video games?
Uh-huh.
I think you do a combination. You do something of that with dice rolls. And it's just, it's all storytelling, and the dice rolls are kind of inconsequential, but they just give you a way to lean, you know?
Yeah.
I think would be, I mean, that's the easy answer, but I think that is the answer.
I think, well, and I think too.
Mechanics-wise,
I think that, and this is, I'm just literally thinking about it now, is you would probably do like an attack roll and a defense roll. And whoever rolls higher, but again, that's the thing where it's so much easier with like, I do damage to it, you know? And then maybe you could do like, where it's so much easier to play and get excited about. Whereas like, if you're just rolling dice back and forth.
What you do is you have normal combat, but the damage is ego. You have an ego HP.
Oh, okay. Because that was what I was going to say, is that you could do like a morale thing. Like,
yeah, same thing. Morale, ego.
Yeah. Ego's more
stamina.
fun, though. If you're, yeah. Ooh, ego and stamina. Okay, so anyway, we're not going to do this podcast about Princess Bride. We're going to talk about me and John's. We're making a campaign setting in a place where we're building a D&D thing where it's mainly
It's only
dueling people. It's dueling people, and you know what? Everybody's HP is pretty low, like 10, 11.
And people have dope Spanish accents.
Everybody's got, it's like Three Musketeers and Zorro put together.
Yep, I love when the way that he says Montoya. Just like, I don't know.
My name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die.
Anyway, so Princess Bride, like in terms of me and my tone, it feels like an 80s reverent kind of fairy tale storybook. It's a weird movie because I'm watching it and it's like, who is it for? And I don't have an answer, but that doesn't mean it's not empty of anything or like it doesn't do anything well. It's just that I don't know who it's for, and it might just truly be for anyone. Anyone that is like that likes fantasy storytelling or, you know, medieval, that kind of thing. And I think that's even so pointed out by the little boy. So kind of quick synopsis. It's a love fantasy story, storybook kind of tale of essentially lovers trying to get together and kind of cross this marriage with this asshole prince guy essentially. And it's a adventure movie. I don't know. It's a super bad description, but
it's because it covers so many different sort of things.
Yeah. And then, but at the same time, we're cutting to a little boy in Chicago being read a story by his grandfather. And so coming back to that, like, I think that the boy's like, this is stupid. I don't like this stuff. I like the Chicago Bears and sports, you know? And the grandfather's like, I'll just read it. And he's into it. And I think that so much is to say that it's for anyone who pays attention or anyone who gives it its attention. And I think that's pretty a bold thing to do, is to say, like, I think it's almost saying and touting that it could be for anyone. And it does it largely. I wouldn't say it's like a masterpiece, but it's so good at being a story. It's just a story, and it's meant to be enjoyed, as all stories are. But it's like, it's not trying to say anything. It's not trying to do anything. It's just set piece after set piece, fun characters.
It moves so fast.
Like very clear motivations too. Like every character has a very clear motivation, and I think that's simple. You don't need any gray area stuff. You just need to know what they want, what the forces are, and what their abilities are, and it's just fun. I think that's why it's for everyone. It's due to its simplicity, and then hitting all sorts of different archetypes that everyone can pick their favorite character or find something in someone. You know, you have kind of like the quiet and studious and thoughtful I don't know their names, but Andre the Giant's character, and then you have like the
Yeah.
Slav and Cool, Masked Man. And then,
I think is it Fezzik? Is it Fezzik is the giant?
Yeah, yeah. And then Robin Wright
Yeah.
looks so young that she doesn't look like Robin Wright to me. Like sometimes she's clearly Robin Wright, and then sometimes like it's just I don't know. But I didn't
It's so
realize
funny.
she was in. Oh, there was something weird she was in. It's not related to anything. Anyways, go ahead.
It's so funny to see, like, so if you have like, it's an interesting thing to have if you have exposure to an actor as they are older or more mature or whatever. It's very interesting to see them when they were younger, and sort of vice versa. Vice versa, like Cary Elwes, the guy who plays Wesley, having like I never saw him. I saw this movie before I saw him in anything else, and then seeing him later was like, interesting, because it had been such a large gap that I hadn't seen him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for me, my first time seeing him was Glory, that movie with Matthew Broderick and like about the 54th Massachusetts. But
I probably
liked
didn't
him
I might have seen that movie, but then I probably didn't recognize it.
What's his name? Cary Elves.
Cary Elwes, I think. I probably am saying that wrong.
He's his best friend. He looks like pretty 1-to-1 masked man vibe.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree. I think like when you see like especially if it's a classic you've seen over and over, like once that you see that character, that's who they are to you.
Yeah.
I mean the big one is I'm blanking on his name, but is it Jack Grant, Dr. Grant?
Alan Grant.
Alan Grant in Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
Jeff Goldblum in that even too. Like that's all I see, and then Cary Elwes or whatever his name is. Like to me, it's always, what's his name? Matthew Broderick, but
This
Colonel Shaw's brother. I mean friend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's always interesting to see that, like, and then to.
Especially like it's more so movies that were big when you were a child, I think.
Yeah.
Or I'd say a TV show that you sunk into, because that's just a lot of time for you to see a face.
And you're like, this is this person to me. That's why I feel like TV actors sometimes get a bad go of it and have to change their like look a whole lot, is because you spend so long with Walter White that you're like, that's who Bryan Cranston is.
Yeah,
you know.
I watched Total Recall, the second one.
With Colin Farrell or whatever.
Yeah, I was painting miniatures because I watched the first one. I watched this one years ago in college, just like dumb college kids in a dorm watching a movie. But then I watched the old one a year ago or so, and it was I loved it. It was amazing, like 5 out of 5 movie for me. And so I was like, I'm gonna go watch this one. I know it's gonna be garbage, but I just want to watch it and see what they threw back to. Anyways, all that is to say, Bryan Cranston's in it as like the bad president dude, and it's like it's not working for me. It's not working for me.
It's hard sometimes, especially when they're like a really good actor. You're like, damn it, you're still just who you are.
Yeah. Well, it's like Walter White's a bad guy too, but he's relatable, I guess. Like he's a person. Where in this he was an evil chancellor or whatever.
Yeah. Well, and that's why too is like actors work so hard to. There's such an interesting balance. Is they work so hard to find their type, so that then they get cast as that, and then that's why you see them play against type after they've been established. And that's funny too, because if they can make that sort of jump to playing against type, then they're like that like solidifies their thing, because it's like otherwise you're just going to be playing to type for the rest of your career.
Yeah,
you know?
It's kind of a damned if you do, damned if you don't, but you kind of got to get there somehow.
Yeah, but also playing against type could really throw you off and I'm sure we've seen that multiple times. I can look at a bunch of different examples, but I haven't done the research to do that. But it's like then, like John Travolta, early in his career, doing a thing, and then like started to play against type, and people were like, nah, and he had to essentially reinvent his type as he grew older into like the Pulp Fiction type thing, and now he's played so far into that type that's the only way it can be.
Yeah, I think that's maybe so you have two types of movie stars. You have The Rock, who plays The Rock, and then you have Tom Cruise, who still looks cool, but he plays a lot of different things in his time.
Well,
he's played a sports agent. He's played number of
but
sci-fi
he's played
heroes. He's played drug runner. I don't know. He's still playing similar versions, but he's I'm speaking movie stars, people, but like that.
You're talking about movie stars, not actors. Like, there's a difference between, like, Dwayne The Rock Johnson always plays Dwayne The Rock Johnson. He does the best of playing to type, where it's essentially like there's no change in this character. There's no method to it. Listen, Rock stands come after me. I don't care. You're also not gonna, because you know it, and that's what we all go to see. We all go to see The Rock. It's like essentially like we're all living in a multiverse where it's like, well, what would we see if The Rock was sort of a bad guy FBI agent? Well, what if The Rock had one leg and liked to climb skyscrapers? Well, what if The Rock trained monkeys and one of them got really big? Well, what if The Rock was a superhero wizard? And it's like that's what we're seeing. He's not changing anything. And I would argue that Tom Cruise does a little bit more than Mickey Rourke maybe thinks he does.
Was Mickey Rourke talk shit about Tom Cruise?
Well, yeah, I just didn't know if because recently Mickey Rourke was like, he's garbage. He's a garbage. He doesn't affect. He doesn't act.
What the fuck, Mickey Rourke?
He's listen. Mickey Rourke is just trying to. He's just trying to stay fucking relevant a little bit and he was part of things.
He came back for a second with what's it called?
The Wrestler, and then Iron Man 2.
Yeah, but he's not there. It ain't happening.
Yeah. Yeah, he said when asked about the actors, he shared some not so nice thoughts on Tom Cruise. When asked about the recent actor's success with Top Gun Maverick, Rourke said it doesn't mean shit to him and accused Cruise of playing the same effing part for 35 years. And that was it. It's so funny to me that
I think he's
really
coasted off of his I think he doesn't have to. He can do what he wants, and it seems like what he wants is these action heroes.
Yeah, well, he wants to make money because he's building his rocket ship and trying to make sure that he can clone his body, so that he can live forever. So he's trying to get enough money so he can do that.
I mean, he's succeeding.
I think he might be succeeding.
I think he might be.
I think he might be getting really close to succeeding.
Has he started building it yet?
Has Mickey Rourke? Is it a spaceship or is it a clone? I think he's definitely tried and failed with clones. I think he's got some clones that he's like. I think that he has made clones that he's attempted to put other people's souls into. As like a means of tests, like sort of like, I think they've gotten to human trials is what I'm saying.
Well, I mean, it would make sense to me that he's at least got his DNA somewhere, I guess.
Yeah. He's got that saved. Now he's just doing tests. He's doing tests to see if implanting the DNA can also implant the memories and the consciousness. But he's doing that with other people.
He's also probably uploaded his brain waves to, like, he's found a way he's looking and digitizing his memory to his brain too. So if not physically,
and then seeing if he can then turn that into, if he can move that into an organic host, taking that digitization of his memory and consciousness. And I think first, we ask a lot of times, where is David Miscavige's wife? Maybe she's the first test, and maybe she was a willing test subject for this to see if her consciousness could be uploaded and then put into a clone of her younger self.
I mean, we're basically talking about Get Out in terms of the conscious transferring.
Well, maybe Jordan Peele knows something more than he's letting on.
I think we got to something here, but so Princess Bride. Let's start negative. What do you not like? What's holding us back? Or is this movie just cruising and it's just good, fun, pretty good lane? Like, it's not even. Does it have any glaring flaws to you?
I don't think that it has any glaring flaws because of the way that it's presented. Where it's any mistakes that would be made that could be made. I don't think that there's any mistakes in this movie because everything is the way that everything is presented. And I'm not saying it's like a perfect movie, but it is the perfect fun adventure for exactly what it needs to be.
Yeah.
It's not like it's just exactly what it needs to be. It moves fast, it does its thing. It hits the story beats. It is like really very much a blow by blow hero's journey, more or less, but like also told in a interesting, unique way. That is just like, it's just really entertaining to watch, and I don't think that. I don't know. It's been a minute since I've like fully seen it, but it's a movie that I always am like, yeah, this is good. I like this.
Well, it is a good TV movie, especially for people who have seen it, because then you could tune in whenever. And that makes sense that the 3 times I had seen it was always channel surfing, and obviously I never committed, and it was always in the same scene for some reason. But
that's so funny to me.
It's a good timeless film, and as far as my negatives, like, the only thing I can really dig up is more of a preference, like the tension of during the rat fight, and we still happen to be having it on the background at this point, but it's not because I'm seeing it. It's not that immediate. Like, this was something I actively was frustrated with while watching it, and the only time I ever felt anything close to that kind of negative feeling was Princess Buttercup being so useless in that fight, but the editing teasing that she's going to be helpful. Like, she picks up, and this is edited to like make me think this stuff, but she picks up a heavy branch, and it's filmed in a way where you think she's about to deliver an over the head blow on this thing, and she doesn't. And she's kind of useless in that scene. And I think this was a good opportunity to make her useful.
A little bit more. I think that
and it was also just technically filmed in a very misleading way, where I'm thought like she's about to overhead bash this rat, and she doesn't, and it just like was super unsatisfying editing wise. But besides that, I don't have any negatives. Like, I enjoyed it, and we can jump into the things we liked, but I don't know. It sounds like you want to say something about that.
Well, I mean, again, you could always make a case for that. Again, the story being told in the 80s, where it's built off of and stuff, that there could be a little bit more of a role for Princess Buttercup besides being essentially a sort of like a damsel in distress. And
it's like the Princess Leia thing. It's like I kind of wanted a Princess Leia out of her, but like, she doesn't have to be like, it's just a moment of like survival, and it's not even like I'm not even trying to. I don't know.
But I would say on a whole, like, I don't know, because like she does try to escape. It's not like she doesn't like, oh, I'm so helpless. Like, anytime that she,
I mean, ultimately,
tries to escape,
her watching by
it's
the
undone
side
by the situation that she's in.
Yeah, I mean, her standing by and watching him fight, do his thing because he's competent fighting is its own thing. Like, that's fine. The editing was weird to me.
Yeah.
Because it totally was teasing an overhead shot or to do something substantial with that branch, and she just kind of shoves it away with the branch. In this sense, so ridiculous that I'm still talking about this. Like, it's not a big deal. It's really not.
Yeah, John.
So, is there anything you can fish for, or are you is that it?
I honestly don't think, like, I just don't think, because the tone is such, it's irreverent. It plays to the directness of the story. I think that this movie is almost the perfect. This is the perfect, like, what it sets out to be, like a sick stay-at-home movie. It's just fun enough. It's just like funny enough and comedic enough for you to be like, nice. And then it's like there's so many interesting characters that you meet along the way. And like this is the perfect sick TV movie that just like happens to be on. You're just going to stick it through it, you know? But I do think, and this is, all right, so maybe this is a negative. So this is a movie that I loved, but it's not a really good rewatchable movie. As much as it is, like, because that's not necessarily true, but it's like I haven't gone back. As much as I love this movie, I think it's a great movie, but I haven't gone back to watch this movie as frequently as maybe you might think or something, because it's something that I do like, and I think like hits a lot of the things that
it's like it's not a pastime for
personally.
you, maybe like it's some movie that you've watched over and over. It's not quite that, but you do have fond relations with it. You have fond relations with the movie.
I have fond relations with this movie. I really like it. We really connect on a high level, but I don't think that it's a long-term day-to-day relationship.
Yeah.
But I do love it, and I think it's great, you know? And I think part of that reason is because it's such a singular experience. And once you've sort of watched it and once you've hit those moments, it's that initial reaction is so powerful and so good and so big that it's like hard to try, or for me, it's been hard to try and go back to re-examine it, to try and recreate that sort of vibe, I guess, if that makes sense. So basically what I'm saying is it's so good on the first watch because it's so encapsulating that it's not a movie that I will seek out to watch, but if it is on, I will absolutely watch it.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
I think so, yeah. And well, in terms of the tone, just it hits reverence so well, especially in the 80s when, I don't know, Spaceballs is pretty much straight up a parody. But like, I don't know, like there's just so many movies with this tone, and this does it in spades, but it still lives in its own world well enough where it's not making fun of it. It's not making fun of itself, or it's not making fun of the medieval setting. You know what I mean? Like it's more just fun characters and archetypes of like assholes or heroes and stuff turned up. And
which is again why I think that it connects up with the D&D because of the irreverence, but then also taking it seriously.
Yeah, no, I think exactly that, and even just like the lack of transitions of like coming into a new set. It's like, okay, here's the scene. You know, definitely feels very D&D, but also transition to the positives. And I don't know how to categorize this, but I love. I love these, like, I love 80s and early 90s movies and some early 2000s. I actually love the feeling of the set or the matte paintings, or like and maybe it's nostalgia, and it doesn't look good necessarily. Like the cliffside battle is very clearly fake set shit, whatever. But it's like I missed that, I guess. I don't know.
No, I agree.
That tangibility is cool, and I think it allows us to focus on performance and all these things, and I don't know. I don't.
There's
know
a level
why it's good.
of...
I can't say why it's good. I can't say why I miss it compared to what's done today. And what's done today, there's still sets and stuff still built out, but the ability to create that illusion is so much better now. But it's like I don't know if that's there's the charm. There's a lack of charm that you lose, or there's charm you lose with that like kind of seamlessness or that ability. And so, like when you think of a charming movie today, if you take out all the animation, like what do you have? Like Wes Anderson films, and that's just color and composition. And so like there's definitely a charm missing in new movies due to something missing, such as the sets, and the charm can come in many ways. But I think it really lended itself to a look and a vibe because it was built and handcrafted for the scenes. And there's a tangibility there. Like you can understand it, even if you know film and like special effects, which I'm not even saying I do. But I feel like I do just a little bit more than the average person. But it's like I don't know. It's tangible and it's relatable even outside of the story world.
Yeah. I think that there's something about like I'm in this sort of like torture chamber, whatever the fuck thing later on. I'm in that portion of the movie. And I think that there's something that's special, and that probably is special about the actors too, about them having to do essentially less work by being in this space. Like, I don't know. There's something that's like so much more engrossing about them actually being in the space. And they've gotten like closer to that, I'd say, like with the Mandalorian, like projection screen type stuff. Yeah. And I just think that there's, and I don't know how much this is, but like instead of like, they build like the front bit of the stage, like they build the front stage and then everything behind it is going to be blue screen, green screen, so that they can create depth, so that they can create depth, that can go back further. And by doing that, ideally that they're going to be creating a bigger world. But I think that a lot of times, like I think that I'm looking at like in Humperduke's thing, like we've got the fire over here, we've got all this depth in here because we've got texture versus this big grand.
Well, yeah, because like because there are sets built today, but it could be built on a parking lot, which sets these days were or whatever. But it is that. It's just the front bit and then the blue screen. But in this, they build it up 20, 30 feet and film creatively within that space. And so the depth and texture is there in real space. Yeah. And and I think a lot of it today, obviously there's the special effects and things I was talking about, but I think there's a lot of location shooting today, which is cool. Mm-hmm. And I don't dislike that. And I think you can get character from that, so maybe it's just purely a nostalgia from like studio films, like just that pure kind of studio film vibe. And, a big part of it too could be the rise of action movies, in America is pretty much everything is almost multi-genre with action, and so it,
because that's what more people
that doesn't lend itself to sets as well. Like, I mean, Total Recall is all sets, Hollywood studio stuff, but that's action. So it is, I mean, it's obviously very possible, but
they can move faster, John. They can move faster with blue screen stuff, with green screen, blue screen. They can move so much faster.
I mean, it's valid. I get it. I would do it, I guess, if I had to, to create a project within a budget and timeline.
They can do faster as far as getting the stuff to then the editors to then have them to offload the work to that. Because really what you could do, like, I mean, because then now this editor for The Princess Bride has to do less work. The editor for The Princess Bride
That's
has
true.
to do less work.
And it's all there.
And they get to play a little bit more. I mean, again, it's like, where do you want to do the work? On the front end or the back end? Do you want to create a space for the actors to have a beautiful space and have to do less work as far as like doing their acting shit? And then also creating the editors and like giving more work to the production designers and stuff like that so they can set the tone? Or do you want to give the editors more work to create the performance for the actors more or less, and then also then to have visualizers create it? So it's like the work's going to be done like realistically, but it's probably easier for the bottom line for them to offload that work so that they know that what is shot and they don't need to like worry about like whether or not something is going to get shot or get made, because they're gonna do it in fucking post anyway.
Yeah, that's true. I guess it just reallocates it's just a reallocation of work, and I think on the front end, as long as you don't have to rely on special effects, I mean, it makes sense. I don't know, but I guess that could be a podcast in itself, and that'd be more of a research thing, studying location shooting, modern studio films and old studio films, and like finding the pros and cons of what they do for you each. And I think ultimately and realistically, I'm coming from a nostalgia angle. So it's tough. I don't think we're gonna see it again. Because we've always been striving in that direction, even during the studio era. So it's just, the closest we'll get is sitcoms or things that are referential to sitcoms. Which I hate.
Yeah,
I hate modern sitcoms. I like the ones.
Yeah,
but again, that's all circling back. That's a positive for me. I just love the look of that. I love living in that world. It takes me back to my youth. It's fun. There's texture. You see the craftsmanship. You can appreciate that. You can like the texturing and weathering on things. Like it's all man-made. Like it's just fun. And it gives the actors a place to play in. And even like this, like the cliffside sword fight with the acrobatics, and you can see the mat kind of come up that was covered in dust.
Yeah.
Or the like really conveniently placed rod where they do a little acrobatic. Like it's just fun. I don't know. It's stupid, but it's fun, and there's a charm and just doesn't take itself seriously. I think Hook has a lot of that too, with like the slides and where all the Lost Boys hang out. And
they lend themselves to the world that they're creating, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, I think it allows for fun, and I think even the goofy shit today takes itself too seriously, and I don't know what the commentary I'm making is or the final point, but it's just observations I'm having, I guess. And it's
that's good.
I don't know if it's me. Like I'm like actually craving older films these days more and more, just because I like living in the world, or even when they're on location, I like seeing the mise en scène, the things in it. I like seeing the shit in it. I like seeing the time capsule of this thing filmed in 1958 and seeing, because usually they're referencing life then. The same way. Yeah. I don't know. Whatever movie average movie drama from today is referencing.
I will say too is like they move faster, which is very interesting, because you could look at like average shot length or whatever, and like shot length has gotten so much shorter that it's like things should be moving faster, but it's like we're accomplishing less storytelling wise in the same amount of time than we did in the past.
Which is bullshit, because we have the golden age of TV, where if you want to do that stuff, go to TV. Let's differentiate these things. Let's take advantage of their strengths.
Like this movie, like is an hour and 30 minutes. I am an hour into it, and it's like you can see. And again, part of it is because it is just like it is built like a story, which I know sounds stupid, but it's built like here is your first act, here is your second act, here is your third act. And it's like we're at our second act climax going into what our third act will be, which will then be revealed and happen within the last 25 minutes of the movie. It's like we're setting up, we've followed all those pieces, and we're going to get to it. And it's right there in front of us. And I think a lot of times, like as far as story structure, like and maybe it's because people are like, well, we don't want to just follow the 3-act structure. We want to sort of like reinvent it a little bit, which is, again, you got to try stuff, but it feels like those natural feelings of like bump, like checking those boxes, gun. It's not necessarily, that tension is not necessarily relieved because we're like, what is happening? Where are we in this story? What's going on?
Yeah.
And so we end up sort of like getting lost in the story because they're getting so convoluted and they're moving past like they're like, yeah, this is the third act. This is where the third act begins. But it's like, this is like, it's hard to tell. So you just like are scooting past it. And it, again, talking about how the way that they made movies is because they had to be so clear with shit that it's a little bit like they had to write the stories, and their stories were written where it's like, hey, how much fun can we have within this formula that will then make it easy for us to make this movie later? You know what I mean? Whereas previously or now it's like, how can we break the structure so that people, because you got to think about it, we've been watching stories, we've been watching movies for 70, 80 years now in the form that they are currently, more or less. You know, if you're going back to like Wizard of Oz and stuff. And is essentially more or less 80 years, 70 years. And so now there's a pressure to be like, how do we reinvent the wheel? Rather than how do we play within the form and build the form out? And I just think that you need a little bit of both.
Profound. No, I like that posing, I guess. That feels like a prompt to a discussion, I guess.
Sound off in the comments. Tell me to shut up about my fucking intellectualization of storytelling. Get it out of here.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of pressure, you know, and this could be something that's even tied to social media, you know, like making stuff that gets reactions or has buzz, you know, over making something safe but really effective, you know, or just playing towards egos so that people can read what people said on. I don't know. I think the cultural shift that social media caused it's more appreciated in application and practicality more than it's respected and understood in like how it changes people's decision making or their actions or the way they feel about things, you know, or the influence it has on them. You know, I think people don't give that anywhere as much credit as they should, and I think that's why social media is the most dangerous. But that's me sounding like a boomer.
I love it, dude. It's a beautiful tool for connection, but it can also limit. Blah blah blah. We're solving it here on Stinky Popcorn Boys, like we always solve all the world's issues. While we're talking about Princess Bride.
How do we bring Tom Cruise back from the dead? Social media, storytelling, tropes. I don't know.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts on the movie?
Well, I just want to say that this movie is a lot of fun, and part of the reason that it is very fun is because there's so many great characters.
Yep.
And they all feel, if not important, they feel real. They feel like a part. They feel like they're integrated. Like even the fucking like the soldier, the like red-haired soldier dude with the mustache, who comes in and like has like his interaction with Humperdinck, and it's like this dude hasn't been in this movie and hasn't been doing shit, but he feels like he has impact and almost is like, oh, you're talking to me? Oh gosh, okay, I'm a part of this now. Here I am. I'm a part of this. Any of the various, like the fucking guy who does the thing, the guy who's like in the torture chamber where he's like, he's like reacting to as he's like cleaning Wesley's wounds and stuff. He's like, and it's just like those little things are very much shaped me as like a director and watcher of stories. You know, you got Miracle Max. It's just like having the characters that add to the character, the ancillary characters, the tertiary characters, having them feel special and not making them small, even while not like giving them more lines or whatever. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? That's one of those things that makes this movie special. Yeah.
I think it's got a ton of nuance and personality in each character, and there's enough characters where there's a lot for that to be so good across the board.
Yeah,
if that makes sense. But I give it 3.5 out of 5. I think it could easily be a 4. So who knows if that'll change. But it's 3.5 fingers out of 5.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay.
I'm the man with 3.5 fingers. Watch out for me.
Oh.
What about you?
I'm gonna give it 4 little chocolate miracle beans out of 5 chocolate miracle beans.
Nice. Well, you want to hear what someone gave it?
Tell me what someone gave it.
What David K gave it?
Tell me what David K gave it.
He says, for me, The Princess Bride is too slow moving and doesn't have the fairy tale like traits to make it memorable for me. This isn't my cup of tea. It would have been nice to have Jerry Goldsmith or James Horner to score the film, but they got rock star Mark Knopfler to do the music, and that doesn't fly well under my radar.
Okay.
So, pretty much the opposite of what you've been saying, how the pacing is really good and it moves. This guy doesn't think so. I think... Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, cool. I wasn't sure if I muted something.
I was just thinking about David K being wrong.
I think everyone's entitled to their opinion, that everyone's opinion is their own and the right and valid. But I think there was something flashy missing for him, you know, something you see in Shrek, like a big red dinosaur or dragon or whatever. Yeah. I don't know. But this is like a grounded, with a little bit of tease of fantasy, just English, vague European countryside adventure. And I think visually he wasn't pleased, which I guess is fair, but not really.
Yeah.
But I think he's basing a lot on that. And it moves. But I think he might have been bored with the look of the film.
Well, because it's essentially low stakes, really, when it comes down to it, is that it's like, it's not world ending, there's no dragon, there's no big anything. It's like low stakes, let's save Princess Buttercup, which is a fucking classic, you know, fantasy thing. Like, save the princess, stop the evil prince.
Yep.
Boom.
Matthew L. gives
Matthew.
it 4 stars in quotes.
Thanks, bud.
Life is pain, life is pain, Your Highness. Anyone who says differently is selling something. End quote. Would you believe me if I told you that I haven't seen The Princess Bride until now? For years, I was surrounded by people who would reference it regularly, and man, I was so confused. And yes, every iconic scene in quotes flew over my head, but not anymore. I've seen it. I liked it a lot. Feels good to be a part of the club. I'm right there with you, Matthew. I'm gonna try and find more bad reviews because there's a lot of.
You join, Matthew.
That's all got it's all 4s and 5s.
Imagine that.
Oh man!
Imagine that, a classic movie getting 4s and 5s pretty consistently.
We got Jolly P up in here with a half-star review.
Oh shit! Jolly P with half-star. Jeez.
You ready for this? Maybe it's good for little kids, but if you critics think this is good, I'm never listening to you all again.
Whoa.
So naturally, when there's a review like this, I'm gonna see what else they've reviewed.
What else did you review, Matthew? How else you feel about things?
He gave Bird Box 5 stars.
Oh wow!
The critics are wrong. The critics are wrong. This is a perfect film, but yes, the book was better. He only reviewed The Ravenous and Doubt.
The Ravenous, like with Guy Pearce that we've already talked about.
No, a different one.
Oh wow!
He gave Don't Look Up 5 stars.
Huh. Okay.
Baby's Day Out, Almost Heroes 5 stars. This guy's got a very weird. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, he gave a half star. One of the worst films I've ever seen, and that was the biggest insult to Bruce Lee ever.
Oh wow!
Hey, he didn't like Army of the Dead. All right, that's fine.
Okay, yeah.
Brendan Fraser's George of the Jungle, he gave 5 stars. In 1995's Mortal Kombat, he gave 5 stars.
It seems like our good friend Matthew P. Jolly P. Sorry, Mr. Jolly P. It seems like they either 5 stars or half star. There's no in between.
It really is. We got Midsummer, half a star. The Lighthouse, half a star. But guess what? The Punisher from 2004, 5 stars.
Oh,
the Dark Tower, that movie you forgot about. 5
Idris Elba, Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah, this.
Okay.
Interesting review.
Jolly P.
Everyone's
got their thing. Maybe
he either hates a movie or he loves it.
Maybe that's his blog is 5-star, half star. He's like, there is no in between. You either love something or you hate it.
I'll find one more review.
Find one more review.
What vibe do I want? Good or bad? Middle of the road?
Us together.
What do you think? Good or bad? Middle of the road?
Of this movie, or what the next review
what should be? What kind of review should I go for?
Find another bad one if you can.
Here we go. Z-Boy H. I love his names.
Z-Boy H.
Well, I'm actually going to go back to Steve D. Forgettable besides a few lines. 2 stars. But Z-Boy H said this movie couldn't get any worse. I mean, there were a couple funny parts. That's inconceivable. Okay. It's really inconceivable how predictable parts of the plot are.
Yeah. That's the point.
The ratings, he's like, guess what he gave Grown Ups? Adam Sandler's Grown Ups.
Get out of
stars.
3.5 stars? I'll tell you what, that's the only movie I ever walked out of theaters watching. I was like, I don't need this. I don't need this in my life. I don't need this in my brain. I'm gonna save this time.
This guy has a very interesting taste in stuff. He gave Moana 1 star.
Say, which one did he give? What did he give 1 star?
Moana. Oh no, he gave Into the Spider-Verse 1 star.
Get out of here. Get out of here. Immediate no. Immediate no.
Z-Boy H, your movie feelings are your movie critic.
No,
criticisms are invalid. Those are objectively good stories.
Yeah. Get out of here.
I feel like this would be the movie though that pulls out a lot of really bad takes and exposes a lot of really bad movie views. And I'm sorry about us sitting here in our ivory tower shitting on people's movie critics. It's fun. And I feel like a lot of you probably are in the same boat as us. I would venture most of you are. It's interesting. But that's the beauty of Rotten Tomatoes is that's
the beauty of it, baby.
It's what people think. Yeah, everyone out there, you know, you don't. There's no influence. There's always the question of like, I don't know, the Resident Evil movies, for example. It's like, why do they keep making them? People like them, you know, just because the critics don't like them. And
people like them. People watch them.
Yeah. But what have you been watching?
I watched Bottle Rocket for the first time. And I loved it. Have you seen Bottle Rocket? You know Bottle Rocket?
Sounds
It's Wes Anderson's first movie.
Oh, really? Interesting.
Yeah. And this was the first time I saw it. I don't know how it escaped me or I put it off or whatever various things. But it was the first time I watched it, and it's so funny because it started out as a short. And watching through the movie, you can tell, or I can tell. I'm like, once we get to the end, have you seen it?
No.
You should watch it because the last 20 minutes is beautiful, and it's only an hour and 30 minutes long. But the last 20 minutes, the third act, which is what I assumed the short was, is like, you're like, all right, yeah, I'm gonna give this guy money to make a feature film, because it's like, I want to see how we get to this point, or like where we go from here. Either way, it's like the last 20 minutes is fucking great.
Damn, I have to watch it.
Yeah.
I do. I turned the corner on him. We were here talking about it, so I do want to consume all his films at some point in my movie viewer, cinema goer career at some point. What else?
I think you'll get there. I think you can do it. What else?
Yeah. Anything else? You've been busy.
That's kind of it. That's kind of it. I feel like I'm missing stuff, but I think that's pretty much it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I watched Sea Beast. I might have talked about that last week, but I watched.
You did talk, or
okay.
You either talked to me personally about it, or you talked about it last week, because it has the similar.
Yeah,
talk about it again, real fast.
It's all right. It's good. It's fun. 3.5 stars. Turning Red's the better animation. If we're talking about best animation of the year, I watched Vertigo for the first time. Very fun.
Oh.
Very uncomfortable when he's like making this girl be someone she isn't for his own fantasy. Very, very uncomfortable, but very fun to watch, I guess, in terms of just going back in time and watching a hit movie from a great director. Watched Nope. We'll talk about that on a podcast eventually.
Yes,
and then I watched in the background while doing packing VIP and journal mission loot bags for an event coming up that we're doing. I watched War of the Worlds and the modern Total Recall.
Yeah, like you just talked about.
Yeah. So I talked about Total Recall. I watched War of the Worlds, and that movie has fun visuals.
Mm-hmm.
Like the tripods over just like regular American town, like the panicked mobs. Like that shit just looks so good, and it's such a fun visualization. But the movie tapers off so fast when he's in the basement with that random dude.
Yeah.
And his son is the dumbest character ever. Like, I gotta see this battle, Dad. I gotta go fight. I
gotta go be a hero,
dude. That. Like who thought that was cool? Who thought that character is so fucking annoying? Yeah, it's one of the worst characters I've seen. And I remembered that specifically as it's 2005, so I was 13, 14 when I watched that, and I was like, this guy's an idiot. What is he doing?
This moron.
This isn't admirable at all. Fuck you. Fuck off, dude. Anyways, I gave it 2.5 stars. But yeah, thank you for listening and hanging out. That was us talking about The Princess Bride and Tom Cruise.
I love it.
And I think we call back to a few things. We call back to Tom Cruise a lot. We call back to Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker a lot, and there are probably a few other things, but I don't know.
Yeah.
It's funny. You got to have some character in tradition in these things that we do.
We got tradition, baby.
We did
talk about we do. We got tradition. We got stories. I'm just appreciative. I'm glad to be here, hanging out, doing the thing, talk about movies with my good bud, and with you listening with us. Gosh, I appreciate it. I love you so much. And as they say in unnamed Fantasyland, hey, watch out! I got a whole lamb I gotta eat. I gotta chug this lamb down real fast, and then I can get back to making some leather bracers for a baby prince.
That'll never be used. All right, bye.